All right, we're live. Okay, you guys want to do a clap? Okay, I'm gonna go 3, 2, 1, clap. Okay, so it's
wait. So we do 3, 2, 1, and then we
and then we clap. Okay,
I'm ready. I'm ready.
3, 2, 1, clap. Georgia, you're so funny.
Amazing.
Hey, it might help. You never know. It might at least help him figure out where he should get close to starting. So maybe it's worth it. Jim, we love you.
I tried.
All right. Good afternoon. Today is Friday, August 14th, and today we're going to talk about Epic's battle with Apple, the public beta of watchOS 7, and a whole lot more, because this is the iMore Show. And joining us today, as usual, Joe Keller, managing editor, assistant managing. I've just given you a promotion of iMore. Welcome to the show, Joe.
It's good to be here as always. What a week.
What a week. What a day yesterday, actually.
Oh my God.
And also joining us is Georgia Dow, expert therapist of anxiety-videos.com. Welcome to the show, Georgia.
Thank you for having me.
It's going to be an exciting conversation today. Well, actually, it may not. I don't know. It depends on if we're all on the same page, then it might be kind of boring because we're just talking about the same thing. But
one of us has to just play devil's advocate, no matter what.
What if none of us? Okay, first of all, we're going to start talking about Fortnite and the fact that they did some shifty stuff to get around having to pay their it's not really their fees, but what they're supposed to pay, the 30% that they're supposed to pay for in-app subscriptions. They did this to Apple, but they also did this to Google, which I know even less about. So they dropped this big announcement, and they also made it apparent. They made a big point to call attention to what they don't like about Apple and their subscription service. So it was definitely we got this thing that we're only going to give people who don't use an in-app purchase. It's a big price drop, a huge reduction in cost, but only if you do it outside of the App Store. So you actually were redirected out of the App Store to get the discounted, or redirected out of the app in order to get the 20% off. And that goes against Apple's guidelines. So then maybe a couple of hours after that, Apple pulled Fortnite from the App Store. I'm telling you, I woke up in the morning and one of our overnight crew news writers was saying, Stephen Warwick, by the way, absolutely fantastic. He had already messaged me. It was like 6:00 in the morning, and he had already messaged me. Should I get, should I try to reach out to Apple to see if they'll send some kind of statement about this? And at the time, it was just Epic's thing. And to me, at this time, it was still just like, oh, this is just another one of those developers who's angry about the 30%, which I'm not saying that they don't have a right to be angry about it, but I just figured this isn't something that Apple's going to comment on. This is just, Fortnite making a stink. It's just like any other developer making a stink, Spotify, something like that. So it's probably nothing. Then I actually read, at this point, I hadn't even read what had happened. Then I read what was happening, and they're actually doing some sort of, not backdoor dealings, but sort of secret workarounds that I know Apple's not okay with. So then it became, okay, either Apple has made a secret backdoor dealing with Fortnite, which is unfortunate because Apple talks about how they treat all developers the same, and we know that's not true. No offense, Apple, but it's not true. Or Fortnite is doing something they're not allowed to do. But there's no way Apple is going to pull Fortnite from the App Store. Bam. Fortnite got pulled from the App Store. Then, less than 20 minutes later, I think it was like 10 minutes later, Fortnite announced that they were dropping a short video into their Party Royale, which is their sort of like in-game get-together situation where you can kind of like watch things or do things as a large group. And they dropped this little video that was before the video even came out. the image that they put up on Twitter, it was clear that they were parroting Apple's iconic 1984 commercial about the Macintosh. So you knew something was coming. And then sure enough, when it finally did drop, which was it was noon my time, 3 p.m. Eastern time. It did finally come out, and it was definitely it was like a shot by shot reframing of that commercial, only with Fortnite characters and Apple as the totalitarian overlords. So then there was that. Then not long after that, we found, within 10 minutes, again, 10, 15 minutes, we found out that Epic is actually filing a lawsuit against Apple. And then not long after that, Google pulled Fortnite from their Google Play Store. So we're up to date on what happened. Georgia, we've always had these conversations about, developers and should Apple be charging 30% and what's the best thing to go forward. So was Epic right to do this sort of thing, to go around Apple's regulations and then also really throw them under the bus, put them on blast, cancel them, whatever you want to say?
I don't know if it's Epic that's really canceling Apple or Apple that tried to cancel Epic for testing the waters. Apple didn't really have a choice, right? If they allow this to happen, then everyone else is going to try to do it. And so Apple's kind of put in the position that, we have to kind of throw down, because if not, if we allow a big developer, then medium and small developers are going to try to pull the exact same thing, and then Apple's going to lose control. But there's a different question to, is it a fair practice what Apple is doing to not only, so I get that they charge 30% for it, you buy the app, it's 30%, you get it. But then the in-app purchases that you also make, Apple gets a cut of as well. And for me, this is kind of like Apple saying, you can rent you're going to pay us 30% to have your coffee shop in our store, but then we're also going to charge you 30% on every coffee that you sell. And so we go to this, how far is too far? And again, I'm not I don't play Fortnite, use the App Store. And so I think that it is something that we need to see, what are the limits? Where does this become a totalitarian regime versus, now we're in a very nice, commensal kind of, I help you, you help me. You're renting a spot, but make all the profits that you want. Mm-hmm. And so how much is too thin to slice the cheese until you're like, I don't have any cheese?
Mm-hmm. So to just before Joe jumps in, it's actually more like Apple says, we're going to give you space to put your coffee shop, and we're not going to charge you to put your coffee shop in our mall, but we're going to charge you 30% for every single cup of coffee that you ever sell. So just to make it,
it's not just though, you when you buy the app, you give Apple 30%, but and then everything that happens Fortnite, inside the app, also is 30%. So that would be the difference between you're paying rent and you're then paying on whatever you sell.
Yeah, and in cases where the app it does cost money to download, that's the case. But in the case of Fortnite, it's free to download. You just pay for the in-app purchases. So in this particular case, and you're right, Georgia, there are also apps where you buy the app and then there are additional in-app purchases, and Apple gets a cut of all of that. So yes. Okay, Joe.
So one of the things that's very important to realize about this is Epic would not be happy if Apple was only taking 1%. This is not ultimately about the cut that Apple's or that Epic has to pay on the App Store. It's that Epic has to pay a cut at all, because one of the things that their lawsuit makes clear is that for Epic, this is about the fact that they cannot have their own App Store on iOS and iPad.
Yes. Which this goes really far. This one was I was talking to Renee about it this morning. I'm like, what? What? What happened? I'm like, I was fine before. And then I'm like, what? What do they want? So go, Joe, explain it more clearly, because it seems so now you're asking for the whole apple.
Yeah. So there's a certain way you can look at this where basically what Epic wants is a free lunch. They want to be on iOS and they don't want to have to, pay anything to Apple. And to a certain extent, that's how Mac OS works. They want
Right.
Mac OS. They want iOS to be more like Mac OS because you
I
can
know what you're
download.
saying.
You can download the app. The Epic Game Store is actually available as an app for Mac, even if there aren't so many games that you can get for Mac on that store. I mean, the point is it's there, and Android works this way to a certain extent. There isn't. I don't believe there's an Epic Game Store for Android, but I do know that Epic has said that they're working on it. Whether it actually materializes, who knows? And I mean, basically, Epic wants iOS to be a little more like Android, where you've got like the Amazon App Store or other third-party app stores that you can get on Android. You can't get that sort of thing on iOS without jailbreaking.
And in some cases, even with jailbreaking, because depending on the jailbreak, it may not even have that option.
Exactly. And it's, this is what this is all about. And I think it certainly brought, I think it's certainly going to bring attention to the issue, but I also think Epic may have shot themselves in the foot in the short term because they knowingly violated App Store rules that they previously agreed to.
Yes, okay, we said somebody needs to be the devil's advocate here. So I'm going to be the advocate for Epic, at least in this particular circumstance. Protesting is how things change. So breaking the rules in order to call attention to the problem, the issue, sometimes you do that in order to make people notice. And what better company to make this kind of stand than somebody who has the most popular game on mobile devices, possibly the most popular game in the world on any platform. I haven't looked at the numbers, but it's certainly up there with that. So Epic making this stand is like, that is a loud voice putting on their mask and throwing their Molotov cocktail right there. So I think breaking the App Store rules, it forced Apple's hand because it forced Apple to remove them from the App Store, but that gave them the fodder they needed to then like really just put on display what the problem that they have with the way Apple does things. So to your point, Joe, they want to have their cake and eat it too. They want to be able to be downloaded and played on an iPhone, but they don't want to pay the fees, the 30% fees for in-app purchases or subscriptions or whatever the case may be. They want to be able to have their own app store, just like you're saying. That is a big deal for them on iOS. So then the question comes up, well, why can't Apple allow people to sideload things then? So why does every single app that goes on my phone have to come from an app store unless I jailbreak it? When on Android, for example, I can sideload a game, I can sideload an app. I don't have to go through the App Store for it. So their argument to me, it still stands because the only reason they want their cake and to eat it too is because Apple is forcing them to have the cake. Apple isn't allowing them to go somewhere else for their treats.
And I don't necessarily disagree. I just think I don't. I have problems with the way Epic has gone about this. I think
because
I don't trust Epic, first of all.
Which is fair, right? That's a fair statement.
Yeah, Epic isn't doing this out of the
thing.
kindness of their heart. They're doing this for their bottom line.
Sure.
But Lori's right. This is something worth talking about. And the particular sized megaphone that Epic has to have this conversation
is why we're talking about it.
Yeah, is exactly what we're talking about. And it's worth using. And I'm glad they're using it for this. I just
you don't like them as a company themselves, like they're not a trustworthy advocate, is what you're saying.
Right.
Fair. Yeah. And they may not be doing this out of, for the greater good of all developers, which, well, let's just say most companies are not, which is fine, right?
No, but if this was Valve wouldn't be doing it for that reason either. Like if Valve had a store that they wanted to get on the iPhone, then they wouldn't be doing it either.
Right. And they might decide to fight. Who knows, right?
Yeah.
Well, again, Steam's really doing well, so I guess they don't really have to. But
Yeah.
how this brings apart the other question, which is like you can get an Amazon app on your phone or Etsy,
Etsy.
Etsy. And you're not paying an extra 30% for things that you purchase. This is for games.
Mhm.
And is there like, are virtual goods worth less? And like, is this something that we should debate, in that there is a difference with, you know, if they're, you know, I don't know if the Etsy app costs anything. I don't think that it does. And they're making tons of money off of it.
But yeah, there are people that sell on the Etsy store that they pay a fee to Etsy, but they don't pay a fee to Apple. And as far as I know, Etsy, the company, does not pay any fees for this.
And they're allowed to have in-app purchases, right? Again, for actual goods.
Yeah.
But even if you were purchasing something that was a song or other things that you were going to listen to, they don't suddenly say, well, this is too much, too virtual. I don't know how they would make the distinction between a game versus a physical product, you know, and this would now you owe us an extra 30% on top of that. And so I don't know how Apple is going to get around the differences between games versus other apps that are on the App Store and really have a legal leg, even though it is in their terms of service. Yes, that considers it, but this might force their hand, especially with the brain in Congress, that they're dealing with antitrust issues.
Yeah,
which
exactly.
Is, again,
it's all kind of tied together.
We chose this at a time where this looks really bad for Apple. And this is now the second time it looks really bad for Apple. And let's just say it, Tencent owns a great deal when we're talking about TikTok being banned and everything else. They have their own store, then they could start putting up banned products again. Like, I think all of this is kind of congruing at the same, it's like, this is the vertex of all the different pieces of the puzzle that are coming together. So Tencent owns, like, I think it's like 40% if you count everything, but 48% of Epic. And now they're coming after Apple because they want to be able to have their own space. And I think that it's a valid argument, but yes, I think that it's happening for perhaps more nefarious reasons.
Yeah. And, you know, Viper, the man about tech, in our comments.
I'm glad you're bringing this up.
You know, the way he puts it, I think is pretty good. You know, it's Apple's platform. You can't come into someone's house and make rules in their house. And I think that's true. You know, I can believe two things at once: that developers who are in Apple's App Store, big and small, they need to abide by Apple's rules, but maybe there should also be other avenues onto the iPhone and iPad.
And the rules are not fully fair. They're not. And if you take a look at, again, Amazon or any other app that you can purchase things on, yet you can say that games are different. I don't think that that's an easy argument to make when you look at the legality of it.
Yeah.
And so I agree, it's your house, but unfortunately, you really only choose between two houses, right?
Yeah.
Like, there's two houses.
The problem is there's only one for Apple. For the App Store, there's only one house on.
There's only one house, and that looks also pretty bad right now.
Yeah, and Viper, I think you were specifically speaking to when I was talking about allowing developers to let us sideload apps. It's not even just that it's their app store, but it's their entire platform on their phone. And so your point is still valid there, which is, you know, this is Apple's operating system too, so they get to choose what they want us to be able to do or not do, and that's totally right. You know, that, like, phones, Apple, you know, it's not a government. You know, these are private entities. They're allowed to do whatever they want. Absolutely. And Stephen Perry also points out that the success of Fortnite is because of Apple and Google. And that's very, very true, that that game got its popularity because of the ability for it to be on every single device. And so it got to be mobile. So yeah, there's that to take into consideration too, of, again, the same having the cake and eating it too conversation of, they got to be a huge, famous, popular game on the backs of companies who did all the work to make the hardware possible for them to have a game on that can be played. And I think, 10 years ago, mobile devices, phones and tablets, they were just a part of like a small part of everything else that we did in life, gaming especially. And so when Apple had those regulations way back then, the landscape was completely different. And today, there are more people who play on their phones than ever before. Like children who were playing video games in their home in the late 80s, early 90s are now adults. And they have like continued to play video games instead of, stopping doing that. That's another like big change that has happened within this generation. So, Apple's App Store regulations and policies that they're constantly leaning on as their reason for why they're not allowing things to happen. I think their policies can and should be a living document that they adjust and change over time based on the way the world is working. I think we've heard this statement before that gaming is headed towards streaming, and when you have companies like Microsoft making a streaming service for Xbox games, which is like the top tier type of gaming, and they're doing streaming, it's not just mobile anymore. It's not just indie games anymore. Like, this is the way that this is going. There's no policy in Apple's guidelines for tier one companies putting out gaming services. So here's a place and a moment in time where Apple can go back and reevaluate their policies and their regulations. And if they want to stand on their statement that they treat all developers the same, maybe it's time to adjust those policies so that they actually can treat all developers the same and have like a universal language that everybody can understand, instead of just kind of like putting the hammer down and then not doing it. And then, oh, but wait, 3 months later, they're doing it in behind the scenes, or, they somehow find a loophole that a company can take to go down that same path or something like that. So there's a lot going on about what they should or shouldn't do, from our perspective, from developer perspective, from the company perspective. Everybody's going to have a different angle on this. I personally would like the App Store to be more open and free, so that, for example, Xbox or xCloud can be on the iPhone, because I think that's wonderful and fun. And I think that Apple has disadvantaged consumers by not allowing that to be on the App Store. I also think that Epic is overstepping their popularity, and they should continue to pay at least some percentage. Maybe the price can drop a little, but I do think that they should be paying some amount of money to Apple for, my phone gets to use this game. So like some amount of money should go to Apple for that. Even if it's a one-time cost, I feel like there should be some kind of payment for being allowed to be played on an iPhone, whether in the App Store or out of the App Store.
You see that thought, though, of who owns my phone, and that curated experience of what do I get to put onto it, which was like the reason that jailbreaking was a thing, that I wanted to jailbreak, because I wanted to copy and paste, or I wanted to have a certain experience of what it goes. Is Apple also, are people now wanting to be able to put things on their phone that they want to have more control over, instead of it being a curated experience through Apple? Mm-hmm. And with xCloud, and now with Fortnite, which are two, again, it's gaming, but it's very, very popular. I think that people are gonna kind of get angry that there is this gated garden that they can't really get out of unless Apple says that it's okay.
Yeah, I mean, Lori, it goes to what you were saying a little bit ago. It is Apple is a private entity, and they can decide what goes on their device, how they build their device. But the question becomes, how far does that reach extend? Like, right. Once the device is in my hand, who gets to determine what I can do with it? And to what, I think the fundamental question here is, to what degree should it be easy for me to change my device, to make it, I mean, really my own.
Right.
Put funny icons on it, or we finally got widgets coming out, but like widgets that don't meet Apple's
Apple standards.
standards.
Right.
Strange fonts. They let us put fonts on the iPhone now, but only through the App Store. It's things like that.
Which is fine. Which is fine if it was only for security and for my protection, right? Like if it was for security and for my protection, then I'm on Apple's side, and I'm like, thank you so much for ensuring that apps are not going to be misused and they're appropriate and they're not going to be stealing information that they should not be. I would be on Apple's side. But in these two cases, that is not why Apple's doing it. And I think that that's why they're getting, one, it's such backlash, and people are kind of up in arms at it, is that you can't use that discussion that they're doing this to protect us. They're doing this purely for control and profits. Like, I don't see any other reason between control and profits that we could argue as to why Apple would be disallowing me to be able to have xCloud or to, whatever experience that I want to have on it. Fortnite was already there. So they can't say that we're unsure that this is going to bring a unsafe user experience to, the people that were there, which is usually the way that Apple goes about it, is this is for security reasons. But when we're talking about xCloud, there's 100 games, right? So you have 300 reviewers doing 100 games every day, which is 30,000 games. Like you can't tell me that they could not look over at launch between now and September 12th, 100 games. Mm-hmm. So those kind of paper arguments do put Apple upon a very dark light.
I think, Georgia, you had also talked about the walled garden phrasing, which people have said a lot about Apple. And on the one hand, I do like the walled garden. But if you think of it like our neighborhood, to use Viper's reference, our neighborhood is an HOA. It's a gated community, right? And we love that. And then the HOA starts getting really strict on some things and won't let us put, like a poinsettia out at Christmas time, right, because it doesn't meet the standards or their policies. And then we start feeling frustrated because this is our home and we live in this home. And if we want to put a poinsettia out at Christmas time, how does this rule negatively affect other people? Putting a poinsettia out it's like the rules and regulations of an HOA should be to protect everyone, not to oppress everyone.
And for those of you, if I can just say, an HOA is a homeowners association. It happens in the States. We don't have them in Canada, but they actually have all these very unusual, maybe not unusual rules. Like you can only have grass that's like 2.5 inches, or you can't paint your door pink, or
yes.
So just for those that might be international.
Sorry.
No, it's okay.
Yes, the homeowners association is that it's a group of people who kind of make sure that a neighborhood looks a certain way. It's a weird white people thing.
That's true.
But I've always kind of considered owning an Apple product to kind of be that sort of thing where I don't get the same freedom that I do from Android or from Windows, but I also don't have to do anything it's all done for me. It makes life easier for me. The App Store is already there. I don't have to go out of my way for anything. The home screen not having a widget on it. Apple just made my home screen. I don't have to think about a home screen. The little things like that.
Right.
So,
which I think you're right. I think people appreciate that.
Right. I think that's why a lot of us go to Apple. I think people who like Android and Windows like to be able to tinker around with their software. And people who like to just have things done for them, they actually like the way Apple's stuff is because there's no question about how it works. It's just that's the only way you can do it. So there's no tinkering to be done. But we're starting to see this pattern of Apple becoming more and more controlling of what we can or can't do on this device. And that, it's like we loved it then, but now the world is changing and we want more than what you're giving us, but you won't do anything to accommodate the way the world is changing. So now we're starting to feel like our freedom or our enjoyment of this walled garden is the walls have gone taller, they've gone thicker, something like that.
And
I can't see the sun anymore,
No, but I think that you're absolutely right, Lori. I think that it's almost like, when you're raising kids, right? We've gotten now to the point where we really appreciated all of the control and protection, and we're more tech savvy, we understand more, but then to start pulling things that we could have that we would like to have, it's like we're outgrowing the applications that the iPhone allows us to do. And now we're seeing it as a little bit more restrictive than for our protection and what they're doing to it. And someone said that then you should get Android, which is true.
You're not wrong.
You're
not wrong.
Which is true. And some people do. But once you're in an ecosystem, it's it is not that easy for most people to be able to change. And I think that, Apple being a, megalith among, people that, if you want a phone, like it's, like, again, you have two kind of choices. There's many Android choices, but it's like Android or it's like, iOS. There isn't that much choice, and it's a very different experience, and it's very difficult for people to be able to make that switch because you have to switch pretty much everything. You don't really have to, you kind of have to. Like once you're in an ecosystem, the chances are you're going to stick with it.
Mm-hmm. Which Apple does a good job of pulling us into that ecosystem with all of the additional things that they make that we want, like an iPad and a Mac, and then an Apple TV, and then
your watch,
HomePods, and then AirPods, and then Apple Watch, and then we're like, we want them all. So I mean, I get that sentiment. Then go get an Android phone. I get that, and I agree with that. Like that's how you solve that problem. But I think that we as consumers, we're allowed to talk about what we
don't like,
what we want, I'm not going to go get an Android phone just so that I can play Fortnite. On the one hand, I don't play Fortnite that much, so it's not that big of a deal for me. Right. But I would like to see, as somebody who consumes Apple products, I would like to feel more like Apple is taking care of me as a consumer instead of constantly looking for that bottom line dollar amount. And I really do think in the last couple of years, as digital services have changed, that Apple isn't changing with it, and that we as Apple users are losing out on some of the great things that could happen just because Apple is sticking to these very strict guidelines that benefit them alone. They don't benefit the consumer, they benefit the company, or they benefit the shareholders, let's say.
Yeah, and Abdi, just because iOS has been a closed system since day one doesn't mean that can't or shouldn't change.
And we shouldn't talk about it and discuss it. And I think that that's where, even though you may not be a fan of Epic and the way that they deal with it, that this is a discussion that should be had. And it would only be, if this was a very small developer, we would not be discussing it. It is only because it's something that's really big, probably also because of the timing, and, pulling, and if I can ask just, you can so say that you had Fortnite on your phone beforehand, so you can't download it, it's gone. But could you still play it if it was on your phone?
Yes, you can still play Epic, and you can still take advantage of everything that is in, I believe it's called Chapter 2, which is the current version of it. But Fortnite did say that when they update to their next chapter, Chapter 3, I believe it's called, iOS users will not be able to play Chapter 3. They will have to be stuck in Chapter 2. So that does affect their playability for future stuff, which that's like downloading an update. So if it's not in the App Store, the update doesn't get to happen. So if you're on a device that doesn't have the update, it doesn't have the ability to have the update, you're just kind of stuck in that. So yeah, that's what's going on with that. I think this is like a really great discussion that I think a lot of people are having right now, which is, we're kind of looking at Apple, this company that we've always been so impressed with what they do for us and how they take care of us. And we're starting to question, okay, so what is right and what is wrong? And, how does Apple how does Apple find that balance where they can continue to, number one, provide us a safe and secure experience, which I know is very important to them. That's really true. That's not them trying to get money. They really want to make sure that the user experience is good to the point where there are certain apps that they don't think should belong on an app store because they think that the experience of using it is not good. So like I get that. And number two, but number two, the shift in just generally services, streaming services and things like that, or ways that games and apps are available in the App Store now, it has shifted. It used to be 99-cent, $1.99 apps, and then everybody flipped a lid if it was $7.99. And then everyone went, okay, fine, we're going to do subscriptions, 99 cents a month. And then, people flipped their lid because it was 99 cents a month. And now, this is the way it is. Like more and more apps and games and developers are choosing to do subscription-based gaming and services and things like that. And so now it's time for Apple to like determine the best way to move forward with this, because I think what I'm afraid of is that right now a bunch of developers make this statement: you can't play in this sphere of app development if you're not on iOS or iPadOS. I think that if Apple continues to keep such a stronghold on the way they do things, that is going to shift. And there is going to be, especially with something like Fortnite, there are going to be people who are going to switch to Android. And then Android is going to become the company or the software that's the playing field. And then these app developers are going to switch to Android, and they're not going to make for iOS anymore. And we're going to be left with, no offense to Android, but we're going to be left with what Android had a few years ago when they weren't a very good service for in terms of apps and games for their customers. You're like, I don't want that to happen to my experience. I want to keep having the top tier app developers and game developers wanting to put on iOS, and I want Apple to make sure that happens in the future.
Yeah. And you can just see that, like, having apps on your phone is actually a feature that Apple wants, right? The thing is that because there's so many apps in the App Store, 2.2 million apps in the App Store, that's a lot of apps. They can be very difficult because it's plentiful. But when you have these top tier apps that people will fight for, people would change systems for Fortnite. I know a lot of Fortnite players, and they will change a system for Fortnite. And if it actually affects Apple's bottom line and their press, which is, they spend a lot of time to make sure that they have this beautiful curated image, which is in most cases true. But these type of things really do put little tiny dents upon their shiny white armor that Apple will not like. And those are types of pressure that I think is really important. I think that that's how the system works, is that we pay with our voices and with our pocketbooks to be able to say what we find acceptable and not. And only when it either affects Apple by regulation, so by force, or by their bottom line and their shareholders get angry, because no one wants their shareholders angry, then they'll make changes to this. But if we do nothing and just accept it because that's the way Apple is and this is good enough, I'm sorry, then nothing changes. Sometimes we need to shake things up in the world and in our devices that we need in order to make change. And I believe for both of it.
And I hope that the government is not the one that forces the hand.
You know what? I am totally okay with that. I'm totally okay with that. With what happened with Facebook, and I believe sorry, I'm going to go on to another topic. I won't. Facebook, Illinois, I'm sorry. Good on Illinois. Just going to say that. Look it up because I'm going to pull us to another 30 minutes over. So I'm sorry. I will stop now.
Yeah, I mean, I see what you're saying is that sometimes the government does have to step in and regulate, but I worry.
Hopefully they're educated about the technology they're using, which would be really nice. I hear you, Lori. I hear you. You're totally right.
All right. I feel like we're done talking about Fortnite. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's move on to another really big thing. Well, some I guess rumors, more than anything, but they're pretty good rumors about some subscription services coming up. Joe, can you run us down Apple One?
All right. So Apple One. This is rumored to be a new subscription bundle that Apple is working on to release as soon as October. This comes from Bloomberg, Mike Gurman at Bloomberg, Mark Gurman.
Mark.
Sorry, Mark. Um,
Sorry to anybody whose name is Mike Gurman out there.
yeah, or take the credit if you want.
Right.
But yeah, Mark Gurman at Bloomberg has this. Apple One it's going to be like their first services bundle. And it's going to be, the thing that's interesting to me about this is it's going to be tiered. The only other subscription that Apple has tiered, I think, like really actually tiered, is iCloud storage. I mean, you have an Apple Music and an Apple Music family plan, but that's just a share between family members. So what this is it's combining different Apple services. So the first tier, which I would imagine is just called Apple One, would be, I think it's Apple Music and Apple TV Plus for one price. And going off on price for a moment, there isn't an exact price, although Bloomberg seems to suggest that the bundles are only designed to save between $2 and $5 compared to all of those things being purchased separately. So first level is Apple Music and Apple TV Plus. The next level seems like it would be Apple Music, Apple TV Plus, and Apple Arcade. And with a final level including News Plus and I believe iCloud storage, additional iCloud storage.
Which that one sounds a little bit,
Yeah.
Georgia, that was one of the things that you had talked about. So we've heard this Apple bundle rumor for quite a while now, basically since Apple started doing more than one service, and we wondered whether or not this was coming. And Georgia, I remember you saying that like there are some things that make you think this would be worth it. One of them is including iCloud storage at some tier, and another was including Apple Care. So I never thought that they would include iCloud storage. I really just thought, no, it's its own entity that people are already paying for. But it looks like this might be the case. So
yeah, and again, if they put it down when you get, like, if you get Apple Care and you get the lowest tier for free when you get Apple Care, like if they do something to, like, so what happens is that the hardest part about becoming part of a subscription is that barrier to entry, right? Apple's really smart in getting you first hooked on it and then having a small fee that you kind of stay hooked on it. Because once you start something, it's difficult to stop it, but it's also difficult to start something new. And so, like, I think that this is like the storage is appealing to me, but I don't think that I would do it at a highest tier because I could buy the storage for less than the services. But if it went with something that I already wanted, I would probably go in. So I'm very interested in how much it will cost and if it will be offered at a low tier with Apple Care.
Thoughts? Yeah. So if you think about, if you're looking at something like, let's say I already pay, I do pay the 200 gigs. It's like the family share thing that, like, it's not that much more and you get so much extra space for it. It's totally worth it. I think, by the way, for anybody listening, it's totally worth it.
It is.
So, then you've got, let's say then I also pay for Apple Arcade and TV Plus, which obviously right now or up until October, nobody's paying for TV Plus. So that's gonna be a moment, right, where I'm either going to decide to cancel TV Plus or I'm going to get a bundle that also includes it. Exactly. And maybe it's only $1 because of the way the discount happened. I would do it. I would say, okay, well, I'm actually going to pay, $2 or $3, $4 more than I had been individually, because I'm going to get now News Plus or, something like that. But I'm going to do it because I'm actually already getting, maybe I'm getting iCloud for free based on the way this is put in there. So it does make it worth it to me.
It's like the supersize me, right? Like you go to McDonald's And it was just like $1 to supersize your fries and your drink, and it costs the store nothing. Like for Apple, this costs you nothing. It really, well, a little bit more, but it doesn't really cost them anymore. And then you get all these other services. And you're absolutely right. If you're already on one of these services and they say, listen, we've bundled something else and you only have to pay an extra $1, I see a lot of people being able to go like, oh, well, you know what? Apple TV sounds TV Plus sounds kind of interesting, or Arcade sounds kind of interesting, or I like the news. Maybe the news is really cool, and I would go into it. Joe?
So one of the things I've been thinking about when it comes to this bundle, like the Uber bundle,
The Uber bundle.
is so the way you pay for Apple Music and Apple News and Apple TV Plus is through iTunes or the App Store. It's through those store payment systems, where the way you pay for storage is different. It's not through the App Store. And for people like me who have different who my iCloud account is separate from my iTunes account, because I've had an iTunes account longer than I've been, a largely Apple customer. I can't really take advantage of that iCloud storage because I have a separate, because I have that other iCloud account.
You would actually have to like get a new iTunes account or something like that. You'd have to like
or I could
change
do a
everything.
thing. I could do a convoluted thing where I created a family under my iCloud account and then put my iTunes account as a family member on that. If that were possible.
Yeah.
I think that probably might be. But yeah, it'd be a mess.
So I actually the Apple Card, if you remember when the Apple Card first started rolling out, the only way that you could apply for it is with your Apple ID. And that was, there was a circumstance under which there were some people who couldn't do it because of a similar situation to you, Joe. It's so confusing to me that I can't even figure out exactly the way it is, but I think it was something like they were sent the email to their iTunes account email address, but the application was using the Apple ID address, and they were different, and that you couldn't do it. And it was only during the like pre-apply period where only a certain number of people were invited to apply. Apple had said the percentage of people that are like you, Joe, it's very small. So your issue, which is unfortunate, it's not something that they can even justify addressing because it's that small. Yeah. But they might find a way to address it, especially if they want to get their customers on board, their long-term customers that they've had since way back in the day when people had a separate iCloud account and a separate Apple ID. They might finally offer a way to merge the two. This is something that we've been wanting for a very long time, is let me merge my accounts. This might be the turning point where Apple says, okay, now we want people's money. So we're going to figure out a way to let them merge these accounts so that they can have a bundle. So it might happen. This might be, your moment to shine and finally get all of that worked out.
Please.
Yeah, could be good. Yeah, I think I'm hoping that this is a Bloomberg rumor, so it's definitely got its merit. And I like, and if it's happening, it's possibly happening as early as this October. So I'm on board with this. I've been wanting this for a long time. I've loved the idea of it. I go back and forth with, I don't watch very much Apple TV stuff. I don't even use the TV app that much. I pop into it and I go, "Ooh, this is cool." It's showing me things that I didn't even know about. I'm going to use this more, and then I don't use it. And then the TV Plus shows I haven't really been that excited about. I still haven't watched Greyhound, so I right now I would allow my TV Plus account to just go. I just don't see it as being a service that I'm that on board with. Apple Arcade, I actually canceled when the Animal Crossing Animal Crossing New Horizons came out, because I knew that I was going to be spending all of my free time playing that video game. So I will be joining that back up because it's great and I love Apple Arcade, but I couldn't justify paying $4 a month for something I literally never used. So that's another, thing that I might not continue to pay for, although in this case I would eventually go back on board when I stop playing so much Animal Crossing. The News Plus, I absolutely love. I love having access to all these magazines and stuff. So, here I am in this position where there's one service that I, genuinely want to continue to pay for every month. And then a couple other services that
But if they were a good price,
if you gave me a bundle option,
it was like a few dollars more.
Yeah, it doesn't even have to be a great discount. Just the discount would probably get my brain to go, oh, this is worth it. It would just do it. Like it's like things that go on sale. You never wanted that, but now that it's 50% off, suddenly it's the only thing that you ever wanted. It's all up in our brain.
Now I have 2 of them. Oops.
Exactly. So I want this. I look forward to it. I hope it happens. I hope that the bundles kind of fit a wide variety of people, and $2 to $5 discount. That's good enough for me. It's good enough for me to really look into this as a choice. So
I think for most people, it'd probably have to be a substantial discount, though. I think for most people, because I think times are really tough right now. A lot of people are out of work. A lot of people are already subscribing to other things, and they're comfortable with that. And so I think that Apple, besides iCloud storage, which I think that if you're on a Mac, I think that if you're using Apple services, iCloud is probably something that you should have. It's just get the store. It's wonderful. You can just, unload your life and you don't have to worry and it's being taken care of. But besides that, I think every other service is an extra, right? You don't really need Apple News. You don't really need Arcade. You don't really need Apple TV. You don't need them. You probably have another service that deals with it. And so if it's only a couple of dollars, I see a whole bunch of people getting on board. And then, as with every single company that does it, after you've eaten enough of the candy, now the candy goes up in price, but you're hooked onto the candy. And so now we're stuck. And then they have better games and better shows, and they figured out how to make the news even more. I find it actually very enjoyable to read. They can do even more with that. And then the bigger price won't be a big deal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So speaking of subscriptions, and so far, the ones that we talked about, is it 5 now? So we're talking about Apple Music, News Plus, Apple Arcade. Yeah, by the way, I forgot to even mention Apple Music, which is hands down. Of course, I will always pay for that.
That's true.
Apple Arcade and TV Plus, and then if you include iCloud, if iCloud is included, that's 6. There might be a 7th coming our way, and it has to do with fitness.
Yeah.
Another Bloomberg report, which again, they're pretty good. They're not dead on all the time, but they are usually the first to start talking about this kind of thing. Again, Joe, run us through what we know so far about this possible fitness subscription, which again was also rumored before WWDC. There was a little bit of a rumor about that because what ended up happening is that Apple changed the workout app to the fitness app. But we had been hearing that there might be a fitness subscription service coming.
So we had heard about that, and we had heard that there might be a fitness app for the Apple TV. And I think the idea was going to be it would lead guided workouts, that sort of thing. And that obviously didn't end up happening. But this fitness subscription service, and to go back to what we were just talking about, it's likely that Apple would also roll this into Apple One. At least according to the report, which, would make sense. Debut a new service and debut a service bundle, but don't roll the new service into the new bundle. That doesn't track.
That doesn't make sense.
And as Bloomberg states, this would be very similar to Peloton. So the Peloton stationary bikes and treadmills have their own sort of workout programs that you can enter with live. I think live and recorded instructors walking you through the various workouts. And that would really be the sort of point of this. Let's see here.
Yeah, so I think I what I really like about this, there's dozens, if not hundreds, of fitness services out there you can subscribe to or you can do for free, and they're all really great. I like that this could be integrated more with my Apple Watch and my iPhone, so that I can be keeping track of every little bit. And again, you have to allow the apps that do include that kind of like, heartbeat tracking, step tracking and things like that. You have to allow them to do that. And here's a way where Apple can really capitalize on this without even having to, do anything special. Like you've already, like, this is your phone, this is your Apple Watch, this is all on device. It's not going into a cloud, assuming that this would be the case. So you're even more protected. It's all still within that secure enclave that Apple champions, and it's all there. And I do think, no matter what, I think Apple can integrate it better, because as is the case with all of the other things that Apple puts out, like this potential tile type dongle, they have more access to the back end of their own operating system, which means that they can develop a very smooth, very well-made fitness program for us, utilizing the iPhone and the Apple Watch and Apple TV for that matter.
And I think that people, especially, we're all inside much more now, that working out and having someone that's there to guide you through this workout in a way that's safe and it's kind of easy, I think a lot of people would use this, right? Like I would have more fun, running or like doing anything, right? And it would be yoga or running and you could do that. And you have this, inspirational person that's kind of there helping you continue on. I would really enjoy. I think I would definitely try it out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, of course.
One of the things this makes me think about is like the activity sharing and challenges aspect
yes.
of the
Yes.
fitness app on the
Joe,
watch.
so true.
And some of us don't really take advantage of that section, because why would we do that with?
Yeah, I don't want to be shamed publicly. I don't. Yeah, exactly.
Why would we do
yeah,
that?
I can shame myself just fine. I don't need others to do it for me.
Exactly. I'm good enough. I'm the best. I'm the best at that, at shaming myself.
Yeah.
Why would I?
Right. I don't need an app to do. I don't need my phone to be like, why haven't you gotten up today? You haven't finished your ring.
Yeah.
No.
And I don't need. I don't need. A friend 7 states away to tell me, I completed this run.
Yeah, exactly. Bragging to me. I don't need it. As I sit there and watch Ozarks. No.
Yeah. So this might be a way to get people engaged with at least the challenges.
I would do it. I think that you're right, which is weird because I don't do it, but this would make it a little bit different. If we're all going on for a walk together and, then I would be like, let's see if we can do like, that would be more, I don't know, in like community versus shaming. I would feel it more as a more positive experience. I don't know if that would make much of a difference. I don't know if anyone else feels that way, but I'd be like, oh, now we're all together to cheer each other on, not,
the community over competition.
Yeah.
And
good. I think one thing I have a lot of concerns with, though, is that Apple will then tell all of these other fitness program organizations that they don't get to do this anymore. Here's the thing.
You're gone. Peloton, you're gone. You can't operate in the App Store anymore.
And I use a personal trainer app, which it's been a life changer for me. And this particular app, it reads my my heart rate while I'm working out.
Nice.
I have to go into the health app.
You're not working hard enough.
Yeah, it
your heart rate's only at like whatever.
Exactly. And my personal trainer can actually like encourage me to, work harder, or might say, hey, your heart rate looked really great. You did a really great workout. So for me, the feedback of being able to have my heart rate tracked while I'm doing this workout is invaluable. This is the kind of thing that I could see Apple saying, oh, you don't get access to our users' Apple heart rates anymore. This is just, for their safety and security, even though it's been fine this whole time, we've decided that you don't get to have, you don't get to do this for your customers anymore. I am worried about that because
Yeah.
I don't care what anybody says. Apple does do that. And this could be something that could come up.
Yeah, they kicked out Fortnite. You don't think they'll kick out Nike?
Yeah.
You think
Yeah.
they're afraid to go after Nike?
They could. But again, as we speak about it, maybe it puts a little bit of pressure that we want what we want when we want it. Let us
Yeah.
have our stuff, Apple. Come on. You have to share. You have to play nice in the sandbox with others.
Right.
And they're like, but
Exactly.
it's our sandbox.
Yeah. And they're not wrong.
It's a true statement. It's a true statement. Exactly.
Yeah. Well, we have come down to the end of our hour. This has been a really great conversation. I absolutely love everything that was said in the live chat. You guys are fantastic. You gave us insight. You gave us your own opinions that were very helpful for us to develop our own opinions about what we think and listen to your counter arguments and stuff. It's been really great. So thank you to everybody who commented. It was actually really, really fun to see all that stuff.
And Chris closed his rings for 845 days in a row.
Whoa.
That's very impressive.
Chris,
that's very impressive. I'll be thinking of you when I sit on the couch watching Ozark.
I'll think of you the next time I have to erase my Apple Watch because I did something wrong to it, and how you would probably be so upset if you lost all of your...
That would be horrible. That would be horrible.
Yeah. All right. And thank you to Jim Metzendorf for all the things that you do to make us sound good. I think you'll notice we had a funny little starting off point. So
it was me. It was me, Jim. I'm sorry.
I think this time it was me, actually. My microphone was the one that went bad, and then that just made Joe's
I couldn't clap.
recorded. And that's true, Georgie. You really can't clap at the same time as everyone else.
I know. I'm sorry.
We'll work on it.
Fair.
And thank you to all of our listeners that come later on. We always podcast on Fridays. It's usually at 1 p.m. Eastern time. Sometimes it's a little later, but we try to do that pretty regularly. So you can join us live every Friday, probably at 1 p.m. Eastern time, or maybe a little later. Or you can listen later, and we love that you listen later too, because we appreciate that you're even taking the time to listen to us. So thank you for everything, and everyone have a great day, great rest of your weekend. This has been the iMore Show.